What is going on, guys, and welcome on in. Happy Sunday. So as we take a peek at futures right now, we're looking pretty green across the board. We did finish on a pretty decent pullback towards the end of the week last week, Friday. So futures are looking decently green. So that could be signaling a nice green week this week. We'll see if we rebound back. It seems like we had 5 red days in a row. Doesn't seem like we had 5 red days in a row on the S&P, which hasn't happened in almost a year, albeit it was a pretty small percentage overall for the week. But a rebound day is certainly makes. I think the way the market's been, it makes sense for Monday, and we'll see how the rest of the week performs. But again, anything could happen overnight. News could drop this down. So what we're gonna do first is dive into the overall market. So looking at futures, SPY, pullback zones, whatnot, IWM for more of the growth more the growth plays, penny stocks. And then we'll dive into some of the stocks I'm watching, then we'll dive more into questions. But really quick, let's take a look. In terms of what I'm holding, my biggest holdings right now, personally, are in the quiet names. A lot of the quiet penny stocks, and it's two of the biggest names, or two of the biggest plays I've had for the past couple months. NSPR and NVOS are I think two of my biggest holdings. Then I have decent chunk in the airlines, long dated calls. So those are probably my core. If you had to go to the core, I'd bunch the airlines together as one, with significant time out for the expiration of those options, and then those 2 penny plays, small cap plays that are quiet, that bottomed out, decent amount of cash, haven't run in a while. NVOS literally hasn't run. And then NSPR was a great runner months ago, but it has been beaten down massively. I think a lot of people forgot about it, and that's the opportunity that I think we'll be looking at in the coming weeks for a lot of these penny stocks, and that's how I'm going to play the core of my swing strategy. And for those who are new and who are just tuning in, basically the core of my strategy and the more of how I want it to kind of become over time is to not have to sit there every day and not to worry about things as much as I just like it. I enjoy it. So I do tend to watch and be very, very, at least monitoring things pretty closely. But I don't want that to be the case. I don't want to be, day trading all the time. I don't want to do that stuff. I do it here and there, but I generally don't. So I'm mostly swing trading, and I'm looking for, the goal realistically is 100% per year is in terms of my swings and how I trade. If I can hit my target of 100% per year account growth, that is beautiful. So that's just broad scope for those who are just new and who are, maybe don't understand how I generally like to do things. And I can do that by playing penny stocks, selling into spikes, buying crazy dips, buying oversold stocks with catalysts, with cash, low threat for offerings, and you can put yourself in a pretty good risk reward. So that said, is it time? NXTD, CBAT, I can write those down. We can take a peek at those. Let's take a peek at those in just a few minutes. CBAT is a prior runner from a while back, about almost a year ago now. That's probably getting down to a decent level. I think could be setting up for a move. DSS had some news on Friday. DSS did have some news on Friday. That one popped up. Let's take a look. If we go into Webull right here, which I'll leave a link, like always, down below in the pinned comment or in the description box, like always, for that. That's a good place to be if you are interested in a brokerage platform that allows you to trade 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pretty great hours in terms of that. The best you're going to get. And I think they have next day settlement on options trades, so you're not going to get that. It's not very common. So that's awesome. DSS popped up about 8 to 10% in the after hours with some news on Friday. But we'll see. The thing with this one is that actually, if we go to this layout really quick, if I go to after hours, where were the top gainers? CYRN was one of the top gainers. We had HEPA had some news, I believe. This popped up, needs to get up over 2 for a bigger move. And then DSS was up there as well. OUT, no, it really didn't have anything. ORRF, no, I wouldn't. Those are 2 that kind of caught the eye, but not really. So DSS, so it's CYRN, HEPA, and then DSS are the top 3 at least bigger plays or bigger movers in after hours on Friday. So usually we'll see how those play out into Monday. The thing about that is that you want to be paying attention to how, things open up. If not much moves come Monday morning, well, then those will be in play. But if not much moves, people might go to the BBIGs and kind of the hot stocks for the week, which that said, I'm going to start diving into all that here in just one second. Let's take a look at SPY really quick, IWM after this, and then we'll dive into a lot of the stocks we're watching this week. So take a look at SPY, right? We got very close to, or at least we started to come down into a decent, it seems like, we got closer to that 50 SMA, which happens to be at 441.50. So we're a couple dollars shy of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we hit that level, but we could also hit that level in 2 weeks if we kind of like bounce a little bit, pop back up, like, hit 450 on SPY and then kind of like consolidate and pull back, and the 50 SMA will continue to kind of slowly kind of push up, and we could hit that in a week or two, right? Even without a very hard pullback like we've been seeing in prior months. We would see, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, boom, 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 market drops, 5%. Maybe not 5%, maybe 2.5% to 3%, 5% on the higher end. And then it's back up at all-time highs within, 3 days, and so it would be really nice to see more of a kind of consistency of it kind of consolidating. And then I would think that opens the door for IWM to make a little breakout, because the past couple of months, while SPY continues to hit all-time highs, IWM has been consolidating in this range from 235 down towards about 210. This has been going on ever since February, okay? So I'm looking for a little bounce on IWM. If SPY is green, I would expect IWM to be green, but we'll see how that plays out into tomorrow. I think futures are looking green for the Russell, so we'll see. But you got to get up over this 230 and then over 230, 235. Over those levels on the Russell, that could be amazing, because we could be setting up for a nice bull run, similar to kind of what we saw this time last year. If you go back on this chart, what do we see? Well, actually, September, we kind of had some resistance up here, up towards that 160-ish level. Eventually, we broke out into November. November was a crazy month for small caps. From November into December, and then into the beginning into January, was a crazy run on the small in the IWM in small caps. So we had a run from, let's see, looks like over a 40% run, almost 50% run from the end of October. So if we can be setting up for even just half of that type of run on a breakout of this resistance, that would be awesome for small caps across the board. And we could see a little bit of a penny stock mania again. It'd be a lot of fun. I think a lot of us would be very excited to see that if we get it. And I think, hey, we're definitely overall, right? We have a lot more retail traders in the game. There's a lot more, people who have who've made a lot of money or have lost a lot of money, but they're addicted in a sense. And I think that we've really, the past year and a half, 2 years, that's really brought a lot of volume and a lot of, difference to the market that we haven't really seen in years past. So it's something you have to adapt to, which I think it's a great thing as long as you're, smart about it, right? So that said, let us start diving into some stocks. I want to bring up the bigger picture view here so we can see things nice and big. That DSS play, by the way, right? I just want to point out, they have a gap to fill up here. So DSS up over this $2. $2 will be the first target if it does get a really nice bounce. Over $2, there's a nice gap up here towards that 240 to 250. I wouldn't be surprised if DSS can get up into this range if we get we need a lot of volume though. We started to get some volume at the end of the week last week. Let's see if that continues on Monday. It needs the volume, but I wouldn't be surprised. That's certainly a gap fill candidate, and we'll have to see how that plays out in the coming sessions. So there is that. I'm going to start diving into some other stocks, and then I have a list. We'll dive into NXTD, CBAT, and then I'll look at some other ones we have right here. AMC for sure. AMC is setting up as well for a nice move. We got to see AMC holding up over 50, over 48.50, I believe is the number. We'll look at that in a second. But AMC, by the way, I think I posted a video just a couple hours ago on stock trends, link down below to that channel. Also, one favor, if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing to TC Trading, those two channels linked down below. We also post there as well. So stock trends, we keep videos super short, sweet, to the point, and we dive into what's going on, volume, news, or just technical analysis on some of the hot stocks we're watching. And then the TC Trading channel is just one video per week, more educational based. So if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing there, those links should be down below in this video, or at least last video. I'd appreciate that. That's all I ask. That and a thumbs up. That's it. All right, so let us dive in. I wanted to look, I talked about FAMI. This is one of the penny stocks I talked about in the video from yesterday, if I recall. I don't have any FAMI, but I was saying, okay, this is an interesting play. If this thing gets up into the gap up here towards 65 cents, up towards 80 cents, this could trigger a lot of other micro pennies. So these sub $1 stocks, that's people call these micro pennies big board plays. They're not OTCs, but they're sub $1. So they're kind of like, we call them micro pennies. Everyone has a different definition, right? But this is one of them that really started to push. CEI was one that has been going crazy. So CEI got attention, and then everyone started to kind of see the volume start to trickle on into some of these plays. But FAMI held that 50 SMA after it broke above, and it started to push up. But they announced an offering, I believe, in the after hours after the market closed on Friday. Kind of a dirty move, but that's what they did. So this is probably going to open up a lot lower, and I'm not surprised because we did actually see a little of a pullback in the after hours, which I was like, oh, I thought this the way it closed, I thought it would have momentum and push up into the after hours, and I thought we'd see some more FOMO and maybe up over 65 cents into the after hours. We didn't see that. They got an offering coming, so that is going to be pulling back. The question after this one, though, what other micro pennies get some more attention? And there is one that I have, or at least two more that I have. I'll pull up AZRX. This is one that I'm watching. Not this one. AZRX, if I believe. This one, AZRX, pulled back super hard. See how it got attention on Friday? This is Friday right here. It started popping up with a lot of the other micro pennies, and then it pulled back super hard. Why? They announced news that they are doing a reverse, I believe a 10-for-1 reverse stock split. I'm not really excited about that news, but I would be excited about grabbing that because a lot of stocks that get a reverse stock split, what does that do? It tightens up the float. So now we got a super low float stock on our hands. Meanwhile, this stock, let's take a look at the float. The float was 92 million. So this is going to be a significantly smaller float. It'll be a higher price stock, roughly $10x higher, right? So $5 or so, depending upon, obviously the price action in the coming in the next session. But I'm watching this one as an idea for one that gets a little bit of a run if we see the volume. So this is one to watch for sure. I don't have any right now, but that sell-off may have given an opportunity. Outside of AZRX, TLGT is another one that I have had on my list, my watches for quite some time. I never really got back in, but if you do notice, there was opportunity here. I just had enough of my other positions that I just didn't need to get in. But look at this. This is a perfect example of what you like to see and when to buy in a penny stock, right? You could be someone who has a longer term view on a stock and you may average down. That's fine. Only problem with that is that you kind of have to know what you're doing because a lot of people will get into situations where they're down 20, 30% on a stock. And that, even though nothing fundamentally has changed about their conviction on that stock, they may still be like, you know what, I'm just going to cut it here. It's breaking below support. For example, here's how you find them. If you start to find them, or you're like, when do I add, or when do I enter, or when do I add? Let's say you have a small position on, but when do I add to that position? Well, here's what I like to see. So we got that, extended sell-off. Boom. August hits, right? This thing pulls back from up around 50 cents, and it pulls back down to the sub 40 cents. But then guess what? It starts to hold up. And the past couple of weeks, we've been holding up in the upper 30s as support, and then we started to get that volume. Look at this volume. It's very, very, to me, this is very, very clear. I mean, I missed it personally. I had enough positions, so I wasn't actively looking for this one as a new position. But we saw, look at this, on the 7th, on the 8th, and the 9th, this stock went down, right? Each of those days from the low 40s down back into the 40-ish range, even upper 30s, but the volume was significantly increased, okay? And then boom, it pops on up on Thursday and Friday, and it starts to make a move. Up 8% on Friday. It was up higher. 50 cents is a key break for a bigger move. And then we have resistance up here towards 63. Over 63, I think we can see 65. That'll be up towards this 200 SMA, and then we'll have to reassess from there. But those are areas I would not be surprised we hit in the coming weeks on a TGOT, if not this week, if we see this micro penny mania continuing. One that I also want to point out as well, BIOL, it's been on my list because it's been kind of holding up. It had some news a couple weeks back or at the earnings report, and then it pulled back down, but it's been holding up decently. So I kind of have been, it's a prior runner. You go back to this time last year, everything ran, right? But it's a prior runner, so it has that range in the chart, and it actually has a recent range up towards almost $1. So, you do the math on where it's at right now, 50 SMA bounce from where it's at, 65 cents to $1. It's over 40% upside, 50% upside actually. It's pretty good. So this is an idea that I have as well on my list as a micro penny. Where's my cutoff? Where's my support? 50 SMA. If it falls below that 50 SMA, which happens to be at 65 cents right now, I'd get out. I'm not in right now, but I would be getting out. And that's kind of my risk. So I'd risk it to 50 SMA for a bigger move up. That would continue to put in higher lows, which I would love to see based on this chart, roughly speaking, right? That would be great. This has been holding up decently over the past couple of weeks. So this is one to watch. The ones that hold up better, those are the ones that you want to have your eye on come when things start to get more favorable for the small caps. So there's one. HEPA will be a runner with the news. HEPA had some news on Friday as well, I believe. Maybe IG set up. I'm going to dive into that actually just in 1 second here. That said, a couple other pennies that I do want to watch, and then we'll talk about some vaccine stocks here in a little bit as well. There is ZEV. ZEV is not a penny, but I guess it's a mid cap or a small cap. ZEV over $10 is interesting for a momentum swing. Lightning E-Motors, this is a SPAC that got beaten down. If you are someone who is here and buying this thing down here in the sixes, you're sitting beautiful right now. But this is looking like it has some momentum. So over $10 is key. We want to see it getting over 10 and holding over 10. And then that's kind of the way I play it. I would have a stop, a hard stop, maybe under like 925. But I would like to see it building over 10 for a bigger move or for a bigger kind of acceleration move to the upside. Maybe a shot back up here towards the 12s, maybe even higher than 12. Acceleration to the upside, exhaust out in terms of more of a parabolic move, and then take some profits into that. That's one of the momentum swings that I am looking at, or at least it's on my list for the upcoming weeks. And then KXIN is another one that has actually been holding up in the threes. Want to see this thing holding $3, so I'll draw a line there as well. Psychological level at $3, but that's an area I want to see it holding up. It's been bouncing off that level the past couple of weeks, which is I like. Decent down day on Friday for an opportunity for a dip buy maybe, but I want to see this thing getting up over 360 for a breakout. And I think we can see $4 plus on this stock. The way it's been holding up quite strong the past couple of weeks, so I like that as well. Okay, that said, let's dive into some of the questions. So I want to dive into the first few, and then we'll make our way down. BBIG is certainly one we're going to dive into in just a second. So NXTD, where is that's not NXT. NXTD. This is one that we are, it's another micro penny play. This is interesting. So very similar setup, I think, to TGLT, right? Where you have this acceleration or this kind of final exhaustion to the downside, it seems like. I would want to look into a little more of cash. Are they at risk of an offering, whatnot, reverse stock split, and we'll see. But that said, this thing starts to hold up in the mid 50s right now and starts to build a base here the next couple of days. That could be your opportunity for this thing to finally have built or found its support for the near term and make a little move up, spike on up, have a news release. This thing can be an easy run to $1. As we've seen in the past, it has had these spikes, up well over 50% in just one day. So it's definitely a prior runner, and it's gotten beaten down quite a bit. So it's setting up with a decent risk reward, I think, where it's currently at. CBAT, let's see how this one is setting on up. It's actually at my support line. So if I start to zoom on out, it's at a line that I have had in the sand here on the chart. I would give it down to, let's say, this 240 level. Let me draw a line there as well. Why is that? Because that's where we came down to this time last year, or end of October, early November last year. And then we made a crazy move to the upside after that. So I would give it down here. I think anything under this 280 into that 240 range is a decent dip buy. And then there is one more level to watch down towards 2. I wouldn't want to see it dropping too much below these levels. And I would also want to have a little more of a fundamental look on this one as well, because this is one that has made a good move right in months past, but it's just completely downtrending. So you want to have, for me, if it hits these ranges that I like, fundamentally speaking, I would want to make sure that I'm looking a little bit deeper into this one, and I still see a little more value there fundamentally. Less threat for an offering, decent amount of cash, potential, stuff in the pipeline coming up, some news release ideas that they're potentially be talking about. That's what I would want to look deeper into. So you can look through the past earnings to find all that stuff, which I think there'll be some good hints there. But I like it down into these ranges. It's getting low, so these could be some good areas to watch as levels of support. AMC and then BBIG. Okay, AMC, beautiful setup on Friday. So if you guys watch a couple weeks back, I have a video talking about the recent pattern with AMC. AMC is actually one that I have on a list for a day trade idea for tomorrow. And what would that be? That would roughly be a stop loss at 48.50, which happens to be this level right here. It was an area of resistance that we held up. We couldn't get above this 48.50 the past couple of weeks. We got there a couple of times, but just couldn't really break through. We finally did on Friday, and now we held up over that level. We actually closed over 50, which is great. I would ideally love to see it hold over $50. And I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up tomorrow morning and AMC is trading 51.52 pretty quickly in the pre-market hours. But I'd be looking for AMC to make a move up into that 55 to 60 range. Why is that? Well, if you look back here, take a look at 55 happens to be right up in here, which we had a decent amount of support based on, when is this? This is like mid-June into end of June. For mid to late June, that's where we held up as support. We kind of came down there multiple times and got bought up, popped back up, and then eventually fell through that level. So I'm looking into this level up towards about 55 as a good PT for the first target, and then up into these tops that we have up here on AMC, up into this level. I would be looking at this for Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday for a move up into this range. This 55 to 60 range is certainly not out of the question. And then at that point, I'd be taking profits personally. Maybe it goes more if the volume stays strong, but I would personally be looking to take profits because what we've been noticing is that AMC makes those moves early in the week and then kind of just sits there and consolidates or falls back off. But also watch this. Look to the option chain this coming week. What are going to be the most or the options that have the highest open interest? So we'll have to see on the call side if AMC is pushing up. If you notice that the $55 calls have the highest open interest or have a lot of open interest, and we're like right around that level come Wednesday, I would not be surprised if those end up out of the money where AMC closes below 55, because that would end up getting a lot of people who are in those calls, a lot of retail traders, or a lot of the volume, right? The crowded trade, the crowded option contracts would expire worthless. Essentially, what does that mean? It means that most people are going to lose money. That's what it means on at least whoever has those option contracts. So you may be thinking about this AMC move and you think, oh, wow, this is awesome. AMC's been super strong, and it has. It really has. But in this move, right, there are people who are holding shares who are doing great. But the people who are playing the options, right, you may hit it big once or twice, but you also are at risk of losing a lot of money. And there's a lot of people here who are so-called apes who are consistently losing week after week on AMC because they're buying these option contracts come on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and then they're buying these out-of-the-money contracts that are like a couple dollars out of the money that are cheaper that end up expiring worthless because AMC kind of stalls out and pulls back. It didn't happen on Friday because we had a breakout over this key level, but I'd be watching this week for a Monday, Tuesday push up into the 60 range, maybe, and then a pullback or a consolidation to finish out the week. We'll see what happens, but you want to see it holding up here over 48.50. That was a prior resistance. Let's see that become new support and go from there. Ideally, over $50 would be great. Now, BBIG, let's take a look at this guy. It's been strong. I mean, I will say, I honestly am thinking of potentially even going long this one this week for a day trade opportunity or an idea, or even a swing, a very short-term momentum swing. If I do it, probably not. If I do, it will be small size because it's not the core of my strategy for those who are familiar. But, you know, this thing, all these lines that I have drawn in are key levels of either prior resistance or areas that it's held up support in the past. So these are all key, as I will say, key levels on the chart, these lines. Now, the most recent key levels is 1050, which we did dip below a little bit on Friday, and then we kind of got back up and closed right around it in the after hours. So 1050 is a key level for me to watch. If we are holding that level, 1163, that's the next key level of resistance to the upside. Beyond that 1250. Here's how I would be playing BBIG. If you're looking at this stock and you're going to be trying to play breakouts, you're going to get yourself screwed. Do not be playing breakouts here. Look for pullbacks to these key levels and make sure that they're holding up. And then these are opportunities for you to grab some shares. Personally, if I'm going to play this for even a swing, or even a momentum play this week, it could be a day trade, could be a swing. If I can get it around, let's say sub 1075, I would do that, and then I would risk it down to 950. I wouldn't want to hold it below 950, so I would give myself, that's my risk. And where am I going to sell? I'm going to sell into the breakouts over resistance. So we break out over this 1250, I am putting sells. 1275, $13, 14, 15. That's where I'm making sure I'm locking in gains at those levels. I'm putting sells at those levels, so I'm locking in gains at some point. And then if it ends up, doing the same thing you saw on Wednesday where it pops above, breaks resistance, and then immediately comes back, then I'll put a trailing stop loss on it, and I will not let myself go red on the trade. That's kind of the idea. The thing that I will be a little bit concerned about would be if we fall below this 940, then what happens is a lot of shorts have the opportunity to get out of the trade. Why is that? Well, because the longer a stock holds and respects key levels, the better it is for longs on a short squeeze, because now you're not giving shorts an opportunity to kind of average up. Those who are stubborn, if you're averaging up, and the stock never kind of flushes out a good 10, 15, 25%, which, we actually got some opportunities this past week, and we got a bigger opportunity about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This was the opportunity that we saw, and then we got that, and then it fell to that $6, and it was down, quite a bit after hitting up over 10, right? It was down, it was cut almost in half, in a day and a half, after hitting those highs, because shorts had the opportunity to get out of that trade and then could rehammer it once it pushed back up. So this is setting up, if we don't gap down or we don't have, a pullback, this is not letting shorts out of the trade. They're going to be screwed. And the second we hit breakouts, they have to cover, or we're getting margin calls and whatnot. So that's kind of the opportunity that you're looking at on the short squeeze side of things. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about gamma squeeze, this gamma squeeze, that. I think it's a lot more, those are certainly, awesome things to be aware of. But I think you have to also understand it comes down to volume, and it comes down to what is going on day to day. There's a lot of shorts who are not stubborn by any means, who are literally, I know a lot of guys who are literally here for BBIG. They're waiting for this absolute kind of breakout, massive move into all-time highs. They're hammering it short with a decent size. We're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. They're hammering this thing on with massive size on the short side with brokers that allow you to short the stock, and they're looking for a day trade. They're looking for this thing to pull back from this 1250, for example. This thing pulls back to 1150. They made a decent chunk of change, and they move on. That's type of, there's a lot of shorts people don't understand sometimes, that there's a lot of shorts who do that and that only, who look for those just small, very short window trade opportunities. The trade sets up, they hammer it, and they make money, and they move on, and they can come back and short it again later if the same opportunity presents in a couple of days or later that day and whatnot. So there's, I think, a lot less stubborn shorts here who are just kind of averaging up, and a lot more of people who are doing that. So at some point, this thing will probably pull back below some of these key levels at some point. But in the near term, the longer it holds them, the more bullish, I would be. So long-winded answer, I guess, on BBIG, but that is what I'm looking at. That's what I'm watching, at least for BBIG. Okay, so let me scroll through. DSS gap, that would be insane. That would be a massive move. And DSS, I will say, for me, it's been on my list. I've had it on my list for a while. The only problem with this thing is that it was so stubborn in months past. I want to say I played it back in here for a move back up, and it never made it. Had ties to crypto, I believe, NFTs, maybe, I forget exactly, but from what I was looking into at the time, and it just never popped, and then it fell off quite a bit. So it's backed out, and now it's bottoming out here. It gets my attention, but we'll see how it plays out on Monday. If it's up a lot, I'm not going to touch it. It's not how I generally like to touch things, but I hope for a nice move come Monday if nothing else runs. Another thing to watch though too, come tomorrow morning, if we're watching the news wire, right, all of a sudden some stock drops some big time news, or there's some big time event, and someone likes the companies want to capitalize on that big time event or news that hits, worldwide news, U.S. news or sector related news. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some other attention on other stocks. So it's always fun to watch Monday, or last week was Tuesday, but the first day of the week really sets the tone. Do we get some fresh stocks with fresh news that like to drop them? Ideally, you don't get many that drop fresh news on Friday. Some do, but it's really an inconvenient time because there's less volume, especially after hours. There's less volume on Friday. There really are less traders who are looking to kind of pounce. Monday morning, everyone's ready to go. They want to make some money and move on and have a great start to the week. So a lot of people are already kind of slap happy on Monday, where they'd be like they're more likely to chase a stock on Monday, if it has some good news, and that's where you can get some crazy runners. So I'd be looking to see if we get some of that come on Monday. So let's see. Scrolling back through, I see BNGO. Let's see. BNGO has been, for me, it's not of interest personally, but it has just been kind of sitting here and consolidating for quite some time. We got some good support here down towards $5. And then our next resistance here is up here. We actually got to draw another line in here because we have been holding a resistance roughly at 640, over 640 up to 7. And then there's some more lines I have here, but it's been quiet. You need maybe someone to spark the fire a little bit. I don't know, in the genomics sector, but this is one, genomics get hot. There's some news somewhere else. Somebody drops some news. ARK starts talking about genomics again. Who knows? Maybe this stock gets a nice run. If you want to risk it here down to $5, it's not a terrible idea risk reward wise. It has just been flatlining, just consolidating for quite some time. So that is my thoughts on that. Watching Piton for a short tomorrow, had insane Thursday. This one, if I recall, I was looking at this one too. Yes. It popped right up, but look where it's at. It's at the 200 SMA. 120. I would say 120 would be the stop loss I would have roughly on that thing. Should fall pretty hard. I mean, 100%. Yeah, this is an interesting one. It had two really good strong days, and then it kind of broke us down, trend roughly right. And then now we'll see if it falls back off on Peloton. But this thing can easily be back down within the week, right? This thing can easily be back down. If it pulls back, back down towards $100, and that's a $15 move on the stock, which is pretty substantial, after how it moved to finish off last week. Within, Thursday, Friday, this thing popped up 20%. It's pretty impressive for, I guess a large cap, right? BTCM, if I recall, this is a Bitcoin play, right? We got to get Bitcoin. This has been actually kind of putting in higher lows. This one it's been on my radar, but I haven't been in. You want to see it continue to put higher lows here. So let's see if it holds up over $10. But the problem you're going to have to watch is Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 46. So Bitcoin had this hard pull on El Salvador, right? Buying 21 Bitcoin, making it the legal tender of the country, I believe, right? That was some of the news. The thing pulls back hard, but it fell right to a pretty key level, right around this 44,000. And it's holding that 44 to 45,000. So this is actually a decent dip buy, in my opinion, on Bitcoin. But now let's see if it gets back up to 50K. Over 50K, this thing probably pushes back up. If I had to say what I think of this in my eyes was kind of like a hard pullback, a kind of a gut check. And I think it's too strong from here. I think we're going to see this thing holding over 45 roughly and continuing to push from here. That's at least my thoughts on it. But again, what do I know? Anything can happen, right? At the end of the day, I have some Bitcoin long and Ethereum, and that's it. Let's take a look at ETH as well. I'll take a peek at some Ethereum. What do we got? It's very similar chart on Ethereum, right? We have this push up here, hard pullback when everything pulled back last week, right on that news. And ever since it pulled back, it's still it fell right back to this area of consolidation. So prior resistance becoming new support. Perfect. It's literally setting up beautifully, just absolutely beautifully, these charts. Honestly, what I could even do too is I can even grab some in the Webull account. I have some longer term that I hold, but I can even grab some for the momentum, short-term momentum in the Webull account. Why not throw some in with some stop losses down below? I might do that this week, so we'll see. I think there's a good 25% upside on Ethereum, and if I'm gonna risk it, I wouldn't want to hold it down below, let's say, 3K. So I would be risking about 5-6% for 25% plus upside. If it breaks out over this 4,000, it's probably going to all-time highs. If you don't have Webull and if you want to get access to something that you want to just make a few extra bucks on a crypto move, this is still a decent spot, I think. As long as we continue to hold these higher lows on Ethereum over 3,000 and Bitcoin over 45 roughly, or 44. It's not a terrible idea. Just some swings to just have on there and kind of forget about and let them do their thing. People forget or don't realize if you're, get all, excited about stocks, you can also just go and grab the actual crypto assets as well. Instead of trying to chase the sympathy plays and the this and that, well, just go play the main play. And if you think Bitcoin's going to break out to all-time highs again, well, then just go buy Bitcoin, I would be cautious. My gut on this stuff is when it's euphoric, when everyone's making so much money, these altcoins are going crazy, take something off the table, right? If you're in, I have absolutely no kind of need personally to overstay my welcome on crypto, because the way that I do things is I'm more active and the goal, right, for what I do is I'm 100% per year, right? That's a rough goal. Yeah, I hit 100% per year. I don't care what it is, if it's in crypto, if it's in stocks, it's in this. Overall, if I can hit 100% per year, very, very doable when you're a little bit more active in trading, and you have to, obviously 90% of people are going to lose money, right? That's just the stats. But if crypto goes crazy, we see Ethereum at 5K, 6K, even 10K by the end of the year, because people are calling for the second half of the year to be the next kind of bull push before the next pullback, then take some profits into that, leave some on to ride for the long term, take something off the table, and make sure you realize some gains. That's how I see it, right? You got to pay tax on that, but that's how I see it personally. So I'm thinking that these are decent opportunities. If we see a little bit of weakness in the market, I'm like, I don't really know where to put my money, I like these ideas as just buy and hold swings. Don't even worry about it and let them do their thing. Okay. Let's see. ZM sold off recently. A little bit of Zoom action. Let's take a look at Zoom. Yeah, it did. It has a gap. I like this gap right here. Take a look at this. We got a gap up on this chart. It's not too shabby. I think I would want to see Zoom holding up over $300. Let's break over 300, which we did. on Friday, and now hold it. If it holds over 300, there's room here to like at least 325 on the chart on Zoom. I would want to look. I personally haven't been super closely following Zoom, but there's some movement and there's some room on that chart. I like that gap idea, and then have a stop loss here. Let's say below 290. So you're going to risk yourself, $10 to the downside for at least a $25 reward to the upside. That's a pretty good risk reward if you're looking at just shares. But maybe go and play some in the money options that are a little more expensive, but go play some in the money options, and maybe you can go and make 50% on those options in the next couple of weeks if we get a nice rebound on Zoom. And your downside would still be limited, roughly speaking, based on the setup. So I think it's a decent risk reward play on Zoom. Possible squeeze on ZEV. Yes, that's what I like. I want ZEV. I like it as a momentum swing for this week. I have it on the list. If it holds over 10, I like it. That's what I'm watching. Whole market correct. We have been already seeing them. If you look at the monthly chart, where's SPY? Go to the monthly chart. We have our first. It's only like not even halfway through the month, I guess. Right? What are we at? We're at the 12th. But on the monthly chart, it's our first red candle in since when is this? You got to go back to the beginning of this year. So it's been like 8-9 months of green months every month. So it would be great if we see a nice red candle get put on SPY. It's healthy pullback, and it'd be awesome to see that for a lot of things to kind of reset, and then we'll go from there. I think small caps would, if I had to kind of guess, I would think small caps would outperform, maybe not outperform SPY, but hold up better if we do see a bigger pullback on SPY. I think small caps hold up better than they have been on recent SPY pullbacks. And then that sets the stage for that breakout in the next couple of months on IWM, which would be beautiful. We talked about that at the beginning. So let's see. TKAT. Thank you for the break. Yeah, AMC. Hey, I'm personally someone who I haven't been there the entire time, where I haven't been holding long the entire time. I have not been an 8 by any means, but I like the idea on AMC for this week. So I'll be there for possible opportunity. There's AMC, right? I'd be there for that possible hold over this 48.50 to $50. If it holds over that level, I think we can see 55 plus in this week pretty easily, I think, with that volume. TKT. This is one that kind of catches the eye when it comes to some of these NFT names. This is one that's at the 50 SMA. Interesting spot. It's a squeezer. This thing, a lot of people, we see it as like a trading vehicle, as we say, right? Where it's like there's a lot less fundamentals at play here, and it's more of like, I think this thing can make a nice 25, 30%, 100% move. So I'm going to put my money in here, and it's a trading vehicle, and that's it. There's nothing fundamental. It's not anything long-term. Who knows? I haven't looked deeper into this stock, but that is the sense that I get. But it's holding the 50 SMA. So let's see. If it holds up over $8, I think it's okay. Below $8, it could easily come back down into the 5 range, 4 range. I wouldn't want to be messing with that personally. But if it holds the 50 SMA, this is actually kind of a notorious bounce point for a lot of stocks. Recently broke above the 50 SMA. Now it's holding it. And let's see, if it can hold this level, I think we can easily see this thing back up over $12 within a couple sessions. And it has the float to do it. It's a fairly low float stock. It's a prior runner. People love to come back to this thing and circulate to it. So I would not be surprised, and I'd be watching that one as long as it holds that blue line, that 50-period simple moving average, or the MA50, as we have right here on Webull on the chart. HEPA News wasn't super interesting to my eyes from what I saw. We can pull it up. It wasn't anything like crazy. The thing what you want, the keys that you love to see when it comes down to it. We're looking for Seeking Alpha here. We want to see Seeking Alpha, and we want to go HEPA. Positive results. Positive phase 2, positive phase 3. Positive phase 1's okay, but it's not like anything crazy. So that's kind of stuff. Those are some big key things to watch. So they scheduled a conference call to review data from phase 2. So that's decent, right? Phase 2. What do we have in here? Let's see. Phase 2, before the market opens, as previously discussed or disclosed, all primary endpoints were achieved in the trial. This could be, it depends on what happens in the conference call. I mean, I'm probably not going to be paying attention to it when we get that on tomorrow morning. But this could be an interesting idea. That said, it's got a $2 resistance, I believe. So many times these conference calls, what they'll do is they'll drop news. I've seen it too many times to kind of just see how this stuff goes. But they drop this news, right? The stock pops, it hit $2 in the after hours. So it's up here. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. Yeah, it hit over $2. That's a resistance level I have. And it kind of already put in a decent run up, looks like, in anticipation of this news. So it's already made a decent move off the 136 bottom. So already make sure you factor that into account. But if it can't break over 2 and hold over 2, honestly, I would be even thinking as a short opportunity, personally, for a move from 2 to like 175. Just for a chunk of change on that. You sometimes get a good sell the news event on the conference call. They drop news, they drop data, and it's positive. It's like, oh yeah, great. And the conference call comes and everyone just sells. Whether that's someone that they say or it's an opportunity to take profits or people, to sell the news. So generally speaking, buy the rumor, sell the news is what I've been noticing for those. So just be careful on that. It does have range over 2 though. It has some range. If I get over 2, get up to this 225 and up towards this 275. There's range in the chart and it's made some crazy moves in the past. So, I wouldn't put it past Apple to do that again. Just make sure you're cautious of that because it did get a good, pre-anticipatory, whatever you want to call it, run the past couple of weeks when a lot of small caps weren't doing that. So make sure you're aware of that. I think a lot of people also mistaken that stuff too. They don't think a stock drops good news and it pushes up, but take a look at the past month, the past couple of weeks. What did the stock do? What did the market do? If the market was down the past couple of weeks or just kind of choppy and that stock was up 10, 20%, it's already put in a good chunk of a move ahead of that. It's already pricing in potentially this news ahead of time, whether there's people who know something before you, this or that, whatever, someone else who's loading up and then is, tweeting about it and then dumping into you. That type of stuff happens all the time. So make sure you're aware. That is why I absolutely love the bottomed out small caps. It's a patience game. It's a lot of times, you sit there and you can wait for weeks. But if you've done a decent amount of due diligence and you know what the company does, they have cash, there's a low threat for an offering, they have a pipeline, they have more potential news releases coming out, and they're a low float, you can come in here and be buying HEPA. Let's say your HEPA is on your list, right? You can be buying HEPA down here towards 150 and averaging down a little bit, and you can already have a nice position at 150 and be the guy selling at 175 and at $2 instead of being the person buying in and thinking, yeah, we can break out, we can go for more. We could, but we can all see the downside pretty quick as well. Just the nature of these stocks. So just make sure you're paying attention to that. I just think when it comes to swinging these things, you want to be buying them when everyone is not. So the end of August, early September, generally speaking, is a great time to be just accumulating some shares. And if you're on with more of a swing trade approach, even if the next couple of weeks the market's red and your stock goes down 5-10%, we talk about here all the time. I have plenty of videos. You can go back and watch, playlist after playlist, video after video, my strategies, how to find stocks, but adding in on dips as you see fit at support levels, and you're in before the crowd, and everyone starts catching on. You're selling into them, and you're locking in your chunk of gains. As long as you're patient, give it a couple months on some of these small caps that I think have that you've done your due diligence, and they should pay off pretty nice if we see IWM breaking out and the market at least staying firm and small caps heating up like they traditionally do into the end of the year. That's my thoughts on that. CEI, let's take a look. I'm going to wrap things up here soon because I am kind of hungry. So, okay, CEI, we have broke over 150. I want to see 150 holding, okay? This thing is going straight up. We're probably due for a nice fat red candle. We have literally not gotten one. We've gotten one red candle in this entire setup here. And that happened on the 31st of August, end of the month, profit taking into the end of the month potentially. We have not had really a big pullback since really since mid to late August. So this is something that's due for a hard pullback down, maybe a consolidation for the next leg, but it's got tons of volume, tons of attention. So let's see. Volume on Friday was 390 million shares. If we push up and we're trading over 250 million shares on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's the guide. 250 million shares. I believe the CEO talked about there's no threat for an offering from what I heard last. I could be mistaken there. That could change in the coming week. But I believe there's low risk of an offering, at least right now, short term. And then, I mean, we're looking for something right here. I think that if it holds over 250 million shares traded per day, that's going to be bullish. If it continues over 300 million shares, over 400 million shares, I mean, that's insane. So that is something to be watching for sure on CEI going forward. Personally, not a fan though. Look at this. It's just straight up. There's many other stocks. You can get a much better risk reward. Could this thing go to like $10? Yeah, it could be a legendary play, with the carbon capture technology and whatnot, right? Could be legendary, but if you're looking to be here for the long term, there's opportunities. You don't have to play this thing right now because you could be you're playing momentum, but this thing can easily pull back and you're more of a gambler up here than if you are looking at other stuff that's at a bottom, that's sitting nice and low, that has catalyst, that has a pipeline, that has cash, low threat for an offering. You could be finding the next CEI, and even if it doesn't go 100, 500%, goes 30%, 40, 50%, you can find the next CEI in a sense, right? And bank nice and calmly, not have to worry panicking here, because if you buy in now and the thing pulls back to $1, which it certainly could before the next leg up, you may, buy in here, freak out, sell it at $1, right? It drops, sell it, put a stop loss at 1. It goes to like 97 cents. You get taken out, stop loss hit, only for the thing to recover over 1 by the end of the day. And by the end of the week, it's at $2. And you're like, why did I sell? That stuff happens all the time. And I just want to make sure you're avoiding that, because you don't need to be doing that stuff. This is where you start buying these types of things up here. Your emotions are taking hold and whatnot. If you're already in and you're skilling out, perfect. You're in a great spot. Skilling out points here. We talked about it, I believe, in yesterday's video, but look at some of these highs up here towards this 185, this high right here at this 225. We have a couple highs here up to 235, a high right here up to 260, and we got a 310. So those are all areas to be watching. These prior spikes, these prior highs on the daily chart, all areas to be watching as points to sell into, points of potential resistance now for CEI. Okay, let's see. Video on using options data to predict the direction of a stock. Talk about the options chain, but I'm sure how. I don't know if I have a specific video. I have a bunch of option basics and how to trade options and whatnot. But what I think I will definitely make a video on very, very soon. I'm not exactly sure exactly all what I want to cover in that, but is that exact? I want to get some more examples. Is that open interest play, the higher volume contracts, right? Come the end of the week, we see many times that those contracts end up expiring out of the money. And many times you'll also see a very late day move in the stock to make sure that those contracts expire out of the money. But if you're curious about Greeks or some of the basics to options, some of the basic Greeks, the delta, gamma, theta, the TC trading channel, there should be a link down below. Just type in TC trading. That's one of the channels that I post videos there. Once per week, we have an options playlist and an options Greeks playlist. That's a great place to go, explaining what the Greeks mean and how you can use that to understand the pricing of the option, and then where you're looking to take profits, where you're looking to cut a loss, where you're looking to average in, or is this contract worth it in your opinion? That's a really great place to be. I would start there. But there's more there, with options for sure. And I think that open interest, high volume contracts, weekly expirations, there's something there. I think a lot of times those end up expiring worthless and bagging, as we say, retail traders who are the ones who are chasing it, FOMOing in. Those are the ones who are losing money. We don't want to be doing that. So let's make sure so there's opportunity there. I think for sure. Do I use stop loss orders to take profits? I do. Personally, for me though, I tend to stay away from stop loss orders. I really don't like them because the stuff that I trade can easily wick down below on low volume, or there could be a quick dump or a market sell. So I generally don't use them too much. But if I'm trading like a larger cap stock, or if I want to be very specific on an area that I am cutting a loss or taking profits, I'll put it on. I've done it a couple times, I think, on live streams too, but I'm not like a huge fan. I will put limit sell orders all the time, take profit orders. But the stop loss thing, most of the time for most penny stocks, I won't put one on. But if I do for a day trade, I need to make sure that I'm there watching it, or I have price alerts set, so I get alerted if it hits a certain level, and I can look back and see what's going on if I want to cut it or whatnot. So personally, that's how I do it. Trying to catch pops and drops, troubling. Then what I would do is I would just put alerts. I would just set alerts for pop catching a drop. What I'll also do though is I'll put on some limit orders for some stocks that I like, some of my swings, some of the low floater swings like NVOS, what I've been doing every single day for the most part on this guy. is just setting some limit orders for like another 100 shares every 5 cents lower. And if it hits, it hits. It's been hitting a couple times. So I've been slowly building out my position. Looking to get my average under $2 is beautiful if I can do that on this one. And, when the thing runs, you're looking nice. So I'll set some crazy low limit orders. And if they expire at the end of the day, they expire. And that's kind of how I'll do some of that stuff. But I would probably recommend the alerts on so if I go to control click, where I can right click on my mouse, if I do that, I can go to create alert, and boom, I can put in alerts on a given stock, and then have it alert me if it hits a certain level. So that's one thing that I'll do. I've been hearing a little bit about ILUS OTC, right? I have absolutely no interest in this thing. I'm sorry, nothing against it. It's just a perfect example, in my opinion, of crowded trade right here. Maybe tomorrow this thing breaks out. Based on what I've been seeing on social media, this thing can easily hit 20 cents. I think it could. But personally, when stuff's like up this high, I'm not a big fan. I would have been liking to buy this thing down in here. So you guys notice a lot of the charts I am buying for my bigger position swings right now, a lot of the penny stocks. What am I doing? They all look like this. All these charts, look at, cut this thing off at August, mid-August. Cut it off right here. Okay? All these charts look very similar, and I'm looking to be buying on specific stocks. Nothing I'm not randomly just throwing cash everywhere, but I'm specifically honing into what I like, making sure I've done my due diligence, and I have recent videos talking about that. The penny stocks you should be buying now, that video, great video to go back to. We talk about 5 things to look for and then some bonus stuff to watch, and I'm buying it here. So personally, could it go for more? Yes. Could it break out over this 18 cents and go for 20? Sure. And that could be an opportunity for a day trade. I don't trade OTCs, but for those who are in, awesome. Make sure you're taking some profits up here at these highs, and then look to hold some for a bigger move if we get a breakout. But personally, when everyone else is getting euphoric, this is when you want to be making sure you're thinking about taking something off the table, locking in gains, because ultimately, right, when everyone's looking one way, generally we see things tend to go the other way, because the crowded trade, 90% of people lose money in the stock market. The crowded trade is not where you want to be for the most part, unless you have absolutely outlier volume, or like an AMC or a GameStop, which is 1 in a million type of thing that happens. It's been happening more often, maybe not 1 in a million now, but it's still, even 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. Those aren't odds I want to be in, right? Long-term odds. I don't want that. For lottery tickets, maybe, but not for my core strategy. The ISL, GNUS, OPTT, IDEX, some oldies but goodies. A lot of charts are looking good. I'm taking a peek at OPTT. OPTT was one that I loved a couple months back. Look at that. That's a nice chart setup right there. I like it. It's sitting nice and low. We have good support here. Looks like down just under $2. It's got some good support. Under $2, I think, is a solid buy, with sells up here towards as you get close to 3. That seems like a decent swing opportunity. I'm going to put that on the list too. Let's see. I want to look into OPTT, and then I like where it's sitting at. That's a nice play. It had a great run last year for sure. A great range trader, and then eventually it broke out. Really blew up and then pushed back. Had I known or gotten into shorting the way that I am now, I'm not necessarily just looking to short everything, but had I known, there was a lot of opportunities last year. For example, OPTT, when it made this crazy outlier move to the upside, that was an opportunity to look to start to short something into that. And, he made a good chunk of change on the way back down. When you get these kind of crazy, just parabolic moves, the second you kind of start seeing some selling, the big selling, there you can get a chunk of that move back on down. So if we see some stuff like that, I'm really excited to take advantage of some of these crazy moves into the next couple of months on the long side. But then come March next year, on stuff that's gotten super overextended, I'm looking to take advantage of some small chunks to the downside as well. One other one to watch, ATOS, have on your list. It's been holding this trend line really nice, so we have some good support down towards 350. So I think under 4. Here's a stock I personally was not a huge fan of back in here, but it has the cult following. This thing, for whatever reason it was, this thing was so strong, right? The end of last year, I traded this thing down here under $1, and I took some profits into the move up. It was so strong into June and even July of this year. I was very surprised by that. So I'm expecting, based on how strong it was then, I'm expecting this thing back up to $5, and I can see it a lot higher if we see a pretty hot couple of months in the small cap land. So for me, under $4 accumulation, wouldn't want to really hold this thing much below $3.50. $3 is like I would say 200 SMA, orange line right here, which happens to be right now at $3, is your last ditch support. You could play it a couple ways, play the trend line, maybe accumulate if you have a longer term view on it. Personally, under 4 I think is okay. We'll see. They have a history of nasty offerings in the past, but they've done quite a bit, so they should have some cash. If I'm not mistaken, they should have a decent amount of cash on hand, but they're a stock that a lot of people like, and I would want to be looking to grab it now as we're starting to see it perking up before it goes parabolic. It has a day or two where it goes up 20%, take some profits into that, boom, you're locking in gains. That's the idea I have on ATOS. So OPTT has earnings tomorrow. So, okay, let's see how earnings goes on OPTT. That's actually great because OPTT drops earnings tomorrow. We can get how much cash, what's the revenue, are the numbers up? We can get a good information into like the future pipeline. They'll probably drop all that info in the earnings. Boom. That's one to watch for sure. I'll take a note on the ER on 913. Boom. That said, guys, let's take a look at futures and then wrap things up. So this is awesome. Thanks so much for tuning on in, like always. What do we got on futures? How are they looking? Still pretty green. So over 0.25% across the board. Tech, small caps, the Dow, S&P, they're all up over 0.25%, at least as of right now. So we'll see how that plays out into tomorrow. A lot could change, but it looks like a little rebound bounce day potentially tomorrow morning if things hold up. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate all of you. Hit that thumbs up button, and if I can ask one or two favors, subscribe to our other two channels, TC Trading and Stock Trends. Subscribe there because we got some good stuff there. We post once a week on TC Trading, and then Stock Trends we post pretty much every day in the morning hours, or if something's crazy is happening, short videos, very short there. We're just diving into technical analysis, the news, what's moving a stock.